My name is Margaret. I'm 64 years old, retired, and until recently, I thought I had a good relationship with my son and his wife. After my husband passed away 4 years ago, I moved in with them. The house technically belonged to me. We bought it with my late husband before he got sick. When we passed it to our son, we kept partial ownership in the deed, just to keep things secure. But I never thought I'd have to pull out paperwork to remind my own child that I still mattered. The arrangement was simple. They would live in the downstairs portion, and I would take the in-law suite upstairs. We shared the kitchen and laundry. In the beginning it worked. I babysat their daughter, cooked dinners, and tried to stay out of their way. I wanted to be helpful, not intrusive. But over the past year, things started to shift. First, it was small things. My daughter-in-law, Jessie, would, accidentally, forget to tell me about family events. I'd find out on Facebook that they'd gone to the beach, or had dinner with her parents, without me. Then she started changing how she spoke to me. Her tone became clipped, her words colder. She began referring to her house in front of guests. My son, Brian, would chuckle nervously or ignore it altogether. I tried not to take it personally. I really did. Then came the moment I knew things were different. One afternoon I came home from the store and found the locks had been changed. I stood there for a full minute, grocery bags in hand, thinking maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe I had the wrong key. But no. The key I had used for years no longer worked. I knocked. Jessie answered. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "We need space. It's better this way." Then she closed the door. My own house. My family. And I was on the porch like a stranger. I sat in my car for over an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just opened the notes app on my phone and started writing everything down. Every word. Every detail. Every incident. Because if no one was going to believe me when I spoke, then I'd make sure they read every single thing I lived through. That night, I slept in a motel. It was the cheapest one in town, and it smelled like bleach and loneliness. I lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, replaying Jessie's words. "It's better this way." I didn't want to call Brian. I wanted him to call me, to apologize, to say this was all some misunderstanding. But he didn't. The next morning I drove to the courthouse. It was time to find out exactly what my legal rights were. The clerk was kind but direct. Yes, my name was still on the deed. No, they couldn't just kick me out. Not legally. I went home that afternoon, determined to calmly explain that they were in the wrong. I had the deed printed. I even brought cookies. Silly, I know. I was still trying to be kind. When I arrived, Jessie opened the door, saw the papers, and said, "You're seriously doing this?" "Jessie," I said gently, "I just want to come home." She folded her arms. "Brian says it's not a good time. He needs space. We both do. This isn't just your home. It's mine too." She didn't answer. She closed the door again. Later that night, Brian finally texted, "Mom, please stop. Let's cool down for a few weeks. We'll talk soon." Weeks. Kept writing. I wrote about the birthday party they didn't invite me to. The times Jessie rolled her eyes when I offered to help. The groceries I bought that suddenly went missing. The strange silences. The look in Brian's eyes. Not anger, not hate. Shame. 2 weeks passed. No word. Then I got a call. From my granddaughter's school. I was still listed as an emergency contact. My granddaughter had a fever and no one was answering. I drove over immediately. She ran into my arms like nothing had changed. "Grandma, are you coming back soon? Mommy says you went on a trip." Almost broke. I brought her home myself. Jessie wasn't there. Brian was. He looked shocked. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "She was sick," I said, holding my ground. "She needed someone." We stood there in silence. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Maybe it's time we talk." Brian and I sat in the kitchen. The same kitchen where I used to make him pancakes every Saturday. It felt like someone else's house now. "I don't know what to do," he said, running a hand through his hair. "Start by telling me why," I replied. He looked tired. Older than his 38 years. Jesse says you were too involved. That you didn't respect boundaries. That you tried to control everything. I was stunned. I cooked, cleaned. I watched your daughter. I gave you space whenever you asked. I only ever tried to help. He nodded but didn't meet my eyes. I know. But she says she never wanted to live with you in the first place. She just agreed because we couldn't afford the house otherwise. So that was it. Resentment. Silent and growing. Brian, I said gently, this house was meant to keep us close, not divide us. He was quiet for a while. I think Jesse feels like you have too much power. Like we're not really in control. I pulled the deed from my bag. This gives me rights. But I never used them to control you. I trusted you. I gave you everything. He finally looked at me. I know. And I let her lock you out. I'm sorry, Mom. We both cried then. But apologies weren't enough. I needed change. I proposed a meeting. All three of us. Mediated if needed. He agreed. The next day Jesse showed up. Arms crossed. Defensive. You can have your space, I said. I'll stay in the upstairs unit. I won't interfere. But I won't be erased either. She stared at me. What do you want? Respect. And time with my granddaughter. She scoffed. And if we say no? I handed her a copy of the deed. Then I move back in. Legally. Immediately. And I bring a lawyer with me. Her face changed. Fine, she said. But I want rules. Clear ones. Boundaries. Then let's write them down. Together. We sat down in the living room with a pot of tea between us and a legal pad on the table. Jesse looked uncomfortable. Brian looked exhausted. I want quiet hours, Jesse said. After 8 p.m., no knocking on our door. No calls unless it's an emergency. Fair, I replied. I'd like to have time with my granddaughter on Sunday afternoons. She hesitated. Every Sunday. I raised Brian with Sunday dinners. It's the one tradition I want to keep. We went back and forth like that for over an hour. No shouting, just tense negotiations. Felt less like family, more like court. But by the end we had a list. Rules for shared space. Boundaries. Time with the child. Kitchen access. Guest policies. Privacy expectations. We all signed it. I moved back in that same weekend. My things hadn't been touched, though some of them were covered in dust. It felt both familiar and foreign. The house was quiet. Like we were all tiptoeing. But things didn't get better. Not yet. Jesse would avoid eye contact. Brian stayed late at work. My granddaughter was the only light in that house, running up the stairs with her drawings and hugs. One evening she climbed into my lap and whispered, "Mommy says you used to be nicer." That one hurt. But I smiled. I'm still nice. Sometimes adults just get tired. Kept writing everything down. Every awkward dinner. Every passive-aggressive remark. Every time they forgot to tell me something. I wasn't waiting for revenge. I wasn't planning to take legal action. But I needed a record. Because part of me feared that this peace was temporary. And I had a feeling the storm wasn't over yet. It had been 3 months since I moved back in. The tension never left. It just settled like dust in the corners of the house. Jessie kept to herself. Brian avoided conflict. I stayed upstairs, tried to be invisible. But my granddaughter's laughter would echo up the stairs, and that was enough to remind me why I endured it. Then one Tuesday morning I received a letter. Certified mail. From a lawyer. Jessie and Brian were petitioning the court to remove me from the deed. They claimed I was interfering. That the living situation was emotionally destabilizing for the child. That I was creating a hostile environment. I sat there, holding the letter, stunned. This wasn't just about boundaries anymore. This was war. Called a lawyer. She was sharp, young, and furious on my behalf. They can't do this, she said. You have a legal stake in the property. But we need documentation. All of it. I handed her my journal. Every page. Every note. Every date and time. She flipped through it and smiled. You were smart. This could save you. I filed a countersuit. I asked the court to affirm my legal right to the property, to protect my access, to defend my dignity. Things got ugly fast. Brian stopped speaking to me. Jesse slammed doors. My granddaughter was confused and quiet. I started leaving the house during the day just to breathe. One afternoon I walked into a cafe and saw something that made my heart drop. Jesse, sitting with a man, laughing, holding his hand. It wasn't Brian. She didn't see me. I didn't say anything. Took a photo, quietly, and for the first time I stopped feeling like the victim. Court day came. I stood in my best dress, hair pinned, papers in hand. My lawyer was calm. I was not. Jesse and Brian sat across the aisle. She looked smug. He looked like he hadn't slept. The judge reviewed the deeds, the notes, the timelines. Then I handed over the photo. This isn't about spite, I said. It's about being erased. Later. And still trying to protect what matters. My voice cracked, but I didn't cry. The judge ruled in my favor. I retained my share of the house. I gained legal rights to visitations with my granddaughter. And I was granted the option to buy out their share if they ever moved. That night, Brian came to my room. I didn't know, he said, about her, about any of it. I didn't comfort him. You chose her silence over my voice for too long. He nodded. I think we're separating. I just looked at him. Take care of your daughter. She needs better examples. Jesse moved out 2 weeks later. Brian stayed. Quiet, humbled, tired. My granddaughter visits every day after school. We bake, we laugh, we read together. And I still write everything down. Not out of fear anymore, but out of gratitude. Because sometimes when no one believes you, your words become your proof. And when people finally listen, they change.